Go. Now it's rolling in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. It is officially 101, and we are getting ready to kick off today's webinar with the wonderful Steve Stewart. I'm going to quickly go over a slide deck, and then I will turn it over. So today's webinar is with Steve Stewart, who is an amazing podcast editor. He's done some of the biggest, long-standing running personal finance podcasts. He's also the co-founder of the Podcast Editors Academy. So lots to learn from him today. If you are not a member of TPA and want to join, we would love to have you be a part of our community. Use promo code TPA26 and get 25% off your annual membership. And if you're not following us on social media, these are all our social media handles. We're always looking to grow. And that is it for me. A couple of housekeeping. If you have a question, drop it in the Q&A box. But as you all know, Steve wants to keep this as dynamic as possible. So use the chat box, chat with each other, throw in some questions, anything you'd like. Let's just keep the conversation flowing as much as possible. So Steve, thank you so much for being here, and we turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate this. This is an honor. I'm going to go ahead and put my screen on this, my slides up on the screen, but I want to let everybody know as I'm going through this, it's going to be pretty quick, and I hope you actually know some of these shortcuts that I'm about to share with you. I have found that knowing certain shortcuts will save you a lot of time in your post-production process. And hopefully you know at least half of these. And if you don't, then this is going to be helpful to you, because one of the things I hate wasting more than almost anything is time. Time is one of our most valuable resources. We cannot recover it. And by shortening your post-production time, it just makes everything better. Of course, you got to do a good job at it, but that's something you'll gain over time as well. So I want to talk about some shortcuts, some efficiencies, good old-fashioned helpful editing tips. If you have any questions or anything you want to add to it, please throw it in the chat or throw it in the Q&A box. The Q&A box is where I might be able to see it, although I don't have my glasses on. So we'll see if we can get any of your questions or maybe some things that you want to add to the discussion added to all this. Because the slideshow actually will only take maybe 15 minutes. If you let me go on for longer, you'll get bored. So let's not let that happen. Let's start off right away. We've got the information here. According to surveys of podcasters, the average 60-minute recording requires 4 hours of editing. That's just editing the recordings. That's not anything that has to do with prep. That's not anything to do with marketing or rendering or uploading or anything. This is the editing process. So hopefully this session will give you ideas for how to speed this up as you go through your post-production processes. Number one shortcut is actually a shortcut. Hotkeys, keyboard shortcuts. When you are able to program your DAW, your NLE, your video editor, whatever it is that you're using, to keyboards that your hands just organically end up knowing over time, you will speed up your workflow. There are programs that I have adjusted. It allows you to program them to what you want, the keyboard shortcuts that you want. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, my main DAW is still, after 26 years now, Audacity. I still use Audacity mainly for audio, just because I knew it from back in 2000. I started using it when I started podcasting in 2010, and I just grew to know it so well that I couldn't start anything else. Of course, I do use some other things as well, but Audacity allows you to program keyboard shortcuts to what you want. And the way you do that is you go into the settings and you say, I want the letter A to stand for amplify. And once you set that, now letter A is amplify. And I make sure all of my keyboard shortcuts are on, at least the ones I use the most frequently, are on my left hand. My right hand is still on my mouse. And that means my eyes are still on the screen. I don't have to look down at my keyboard, hunt and peck, move around, because that's valuable time when you're spending 4 hours editing a 60-minute recording. There's also macros. Macros are kind of, think of it this way. It's different. It's allowing you to do multiple commands in one shot. So you can have, for instance, I've got a show, they want me to bleep out any explicit words. So I have a certain tone that I programmed, and it's just a 3-command line. Anything I've selected, I hit the X key. X is perfect for, deleting explicit words, and it just puts this tone over it. So when somebody swears, it goes beep right over it. Super quick and easy. Macros are fantastic. And then not necessarily something that you can do inside of your editing program, but there's programs out there for other things that you might use, like Text Expander for Mac. I use it all the time just because I can type in a couple of letters and it will expand out all kinds of things. Mostly it's just text-based. So like, if, for example, an email, you might be sending the same type of an email on a regular basis. Using Text Expander is going to save you time. And that's, for me, that's something I'm doing at the end of a process. I've got the episode ready. I've got these couple of keyboard commands. I just put these 3 letters in, and it populates an email, and it says, hey, your episode's ready to go, and then I click send. Saves tons of time. So that's just tip number 1. Tip number 2, templates. If you're doing something similar over multiple episodes or all the episodes, having templates are fantastic. DAW templates, NLE templates. If you've got the same process that you go through, for example, I've got a show. It's a very simple intro show, the show intro music, the interview, and then the show outro music. All I have to do is have a template set up for that, and I can throw the edited part in there, move around the intro, outro, boom, it's done. More complicated shows have more pieces to it. Templates are a real time saver, so you're not hunting and pecking for different things that you need to find. Oh, I need that intro, I need that bumper music, that stinger, that sound effect. It's all already there in your template for you. Also, Canva templates, and this isn't a part of the editing, but this is something that you could do if you're doing something like episode artwork, or if you're creating chapter artwork for chapters of your show. Templates are fantastic in things like Canva. If you got the template, your branding is all there. All you have to do is change the lettering, maybe throw a different image in a certain spot, but the rest of the template is still there, ready to be used again and again, over and over again. It's going to save you tons of time. Number 3, utilize AI. I mean, can anybody get through any kind of a presentation without talking about AI? Not these days. Everybody's got to use some AI somehow. I use it all the time, although I don't use it for much of the actual editing, cutting out the crap. And when I say cutting out the crap is an acronym, CRAPP, crutches, accidents, repeats, pregnant pauses. That's what I'm really focusing on when I'm editing. But then there's other processes that I might use AI for. Filler word removal, there are some tools out there. I see somebody in the chat says they use Descript. It's word-based editing. It's amazing. A lot of tools are starting to do this now. However, you got to be careful of those things because sometimes they don't cut as well as you will. And I don't even use very many tools for any kind of filler word removal. But camera switching, if you've got a video that you're editing, if you're doing a video version of your podcast, camera switching using AI is going to save you tons of time. It's built into tools like Riverside, Descript. These things are fantastic. Audio repair. There are times where I'll get some audio and it's just horrible. I try my best to make it sound decent. And if I just can't, and if I know I can't, I'm going to throw it into I've got like 3 different AI tools I could try to clean up somebody's bad audio and make it so it's at least clear enough so that people can understand what the person is saying. Show notes. I mean, who doesn't get transcriptions now automated from whatever service you're using? Or I've got a couple tools here locally on my computer that pulls up transcripts like that. It's amazing. And I use transcripts for all kinds of things. Finding keywords, creating the show notes, maybe chapter headers, and of course having transcriptions available to my clients who want transcriptions. So using AI, I mean, AI is everywhere, and and when I first created this this presentation a couple years ago, I have tweaked it, of course, for this presentation, but a couple years ago, this all was still kind of new, and now it's everywhere. So pretty surprising how much AI has infiltrated our workflows. Here's a study I got off of searchyourcloud.com, and it tells us that now this is mostly a workplace, not necessarily podcasting, but I think the information is valuable, that we spend 5 to 25 minutes searching every time we want to find that all-important document. Now, that might not be the same for podcasting, but I'll tell you what, when I was working in a day job, and even today when I am looking for something, I've got to search my computer for this and that, and it's costing me time. Well, organization is my number 4 tip. Having files in folders. The folders are in order, whether you do it by episode number, or for me, I've got 20 different shows that I do the post-production for. So I've got to have all those in certain order. And then from there, we go to the episodes. And from there, I might have a folder that has all of the sound effects stored and information about the show. Organization is key. And then something like a Kanban management tool. This is your Trellos, your Asanas, your Airtables, things that will help you to remain organized in what stage of the process you're in is going to help you. So, for example, if people are spending 4 hours editing, I could start, let's say I'm doing 4 hours of editing. I could start in the morning, but I'm going to take a break for lunch. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to be like, whoa, where was I? Well, if I've got my Kanban process organized and checked off, I know exactly where to start off again. And then even your desktop, your physical desktop, meaning all the things on right here on my desk. I've got my calendar here. I've got my iPad over there. I got the microphone. That's got to be organized. And digitally, things on my desktop need to be organized, because I'll tell you what, a cluttered desktop is a sign of a busy person, but also of some wasted time. All right, number 5, naming conventions. This is how it's part of organization as well. But by naming things properly, you'll be able to easily identify what they are, and you'll be able to search for them on your computer and find them, even because there's times where I'll be exporting something and I'll export it to the wrong folder. And I'm like, what in the world? Where did that go? And then I'll be able to search for it because I follow this naming convention. Things like episode number, guest name. Was this an intro? Was this an interview? Things like that. That's for your file names and folder names as well. You might have it by topic, things like that. And of course, if you've got revisions, putting the years, months, dates, hours, minutes, however detailed you want to get, that's helpful as well. I've got some shows where they'll release every week and they don't do episode numbers, they do dates. And I've got other ones that they'll do episode numbers, and it could be almost anything as far as when they release the episodes. All right, before I go on to the next one, I want to look at the chat here because I see a lot of comments. Thank you all for being here. Wayne, I saw you in here earlier. Thank you. All right. Wayne says 4x the length of the content is their average. I think, we got to do some things to cut that down without reducing the quality of the work. Somebody, just uses AI for background and cleanup. Going down here. Transcriptions cannot understand the Irish accent. Oh my goodness, it's terror, I believe. So I spent a lot of time correcting the transcripts, and then Spotify and Apple ignore them. Okay, there should be a way to fix that. We won't go in that today. There should be a way to upload in your media host, depending on your media host. But I think almost all media hosts now, at least the ones that I'm mostly familiar with, allow you to upload your own transcript. So that might be something we'll have to troubleshoot sometime. Here we go. Emily says, I'm currently using Riverside for video audio because I am newer to podcasting. What would you suggest be the step-up program from Riverside for both video and audio recording, and is user-friendly for semi-beginners? I'm sorry, I get my glasses on. I'm trying to up my editing audio game. Well, Emily asked about recording. Honestly, I would not move from Riverside. Riverside's one of the best. Now, Descript has Squadcast, which they stopped development on because they're about to release Rooms to replace that. I haven't tried it yet, but I imagine it's going to work very much the same. And both Descript and Riverside, as far as online video and audio recording and editing, I think are fantastic. So I wouldn't move from there. Okay, what would you recommend for AI audio repair tools? Yeah, so this is Sarah, says, I use Descript, and it's okay for basic cleanup, but for not extreme cases. Yeah, that's the truth. All right, I'm going to stop the share for a second because I have a story to tell you. I had a client who had a person who was kind of a big deal. In their field, they were a big deal. let's just say, had to do with the Super Bowl, not on the field, but somewhere in the background. And I got this recording, and it was the worst audio it had ever been had to deal with. And I'm like, what's going on? They had recorded the video, and I went to find the video, and I found it, and it's like, all right, this is ridiculous. The guy was sitting in front of his laptop. You could tell it was a laptop. No headphones, so we got room echo. No microphone, so we're just using the built-in microphone to the laptop, or maybe it was an iPad, maybe it was even a phone. I think it was a laptop. And behind him, I could just see a men's urinal. I'm like, no, 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 no. They couldn't re-record. They needed this recording. I did the best I could, but no AI tool I used could solve it. I'll give you an idea of something I tried. There's Adobe Podcast, which actually might have even been better nowadays than what it was in the past. But Adobe Podcast has a great enhanced tool. Descript has studio sound. I think the first AI tool that's out there, and really well done product. For Mac, there's a product on Mac called Hush. One-time purchase, Mac app, sits here locally on your computer. You do need the internet. Of course, for all these things, you need the internet. So you can't just do this, while you've got your laptop at the campground and no hotspot. But those are probably the three that I use the most to try and resolve those things. Now, not AI tools that I use, so they're not AI, is Isotope RX. Isotope RX, that's the sorcery I learned about in 2017. I've been using it ever since. The mouth declick, hands down, fantastic tool. I use it for every piece of spoken word audio that I get. Just amazing. It's definitely worth the money. I'd go with the middle tier 1 standard. There's a lot of tools in that standard product, and you can use it both as a standalone desktop app or as a plugin for even Audacity. In Audacity, I can run Isotope RX declick. I just hit a key, it runs it. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to get back to the presentation. I think we've got more questions, but I need to get back to the presentation here. We're just talking about naming conventions. Let's talk now about one of the tricks I use all the time is speeding up your playback. Even in Descript, you can speed up the playback as you're editing. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to miss something. Well, once you get to learn somebody's cadence, especially if it's the host, or maybe it's somebody that you've edited a few times before, you're not going to miss anything. You might miss that little sound, but that's really nothing compared to the overall picture of what you could miss if you weren't listening at all. But we're listening to at least I am. I'm listening to every single second of an audio recording to make sure that nothing goes out that shouldn't have gone out. Everything that's in should have stayed in. Nothing is there that should have went out. And you can speed up that playback to get through the process faster. Now, it's not going to turn a 60-minute recording into just a 30-minute edit process. You can't. You could run it at 2x, but every time you stop to do an edit, that's costing you time. So it's still going to cost you time, but instead of editing at 1x, you're going to hear this go faster, and it's going to take you less than 1x, or it's going to take you more than 4x. I'll say it again. It's not going to take you 4 hours to edit a 60-minute recording if you're playing it at 1.25 speed or something like that. So one thing you want to be aware of is the pacing or the space. You don't want to cut that down, but then sometimes there's longer gaps, and if you're playing it back faster, maybe a 2-second gap is there and you didn't realize it. So that's just something to be aware of. But playback speed is something I use all the time, and it saves me time in the post-production process. Number 7. This one's a little bit unusual. I don't even know what to call it. I just say find the second edit before making the first. So here's how that works. You're playing back the audio or the video, and you find something you're going to edit. This works really well in video editing, in audio editing software. You can, as you're playing, it's still playing. Let me take the screen off real quick. The audio is still playing, and you find that spot that you want to edit. As it's still playing, you take your cursor and you set it over that thing, and you wait until you find the next thing you want to edit. Then when you hit stop, then you can apply whatever it is to what you highlighted with your cursor with. For example, I reduce the volume of breaths. I have a client who, it's like Darth Vader almost. It's amazing. I can't do much with automated software. I have to reduce the volume all the time on this person. So I select that breath and I'm playing. Then when I stop, I'll hit the key that reduces the breath. I've got a macro. I was talking about the keyboard shortcuts. And then I'm already knowing where I'm going to be second time, and I can highlight that, make the cut or reduce the breath on that one, and then continue on again. It's amazing how much time that will save you by finding the second cut before making the first. Hopefully that made some sense. All right, before we go into the next one, I'm going to go to another one here. I've got Michael says, if it took me 4 hours to edit my 1 hour shows, I'd give up podcasting. My key is to prep every interview and show as much as possible and make the recording close to the final product. Yes. Unfortunately, you don't have any control over how the guest speaks, or their dog interrupts, or the cars and the trucks are driving by, and there's all kinds of variables there when you are interviewing guests. Let's see. I also keep my recording super clean with the prep and guidance in the moment. Otherwise, I would be overwhelmed with audio and get burnt out. Yeah. Hopefully there's something here today that's going to help you to save time, because everybody can just roll tape, meaning everybody can just go live and record it and put it up on YouTube. I got into this business because I love the medium and I love the content that my clients are sharing, and I want it to be presented in a way that's better than the ones who don't put the effort and time into their post-production. Of course, content is king, but quality is queen. So I'm hoping that by the post-production process, we improve our product a little bit each time. And I'll tell you this right now. When I did my show back in 2010 to 2015, I didn't know what I knew now. And most of the tools aren't even around anymore we're using different tools. The tools we're using today, except for Audacity, most of them didn't exist. And if I had to, I'd go back and I would clean up all these old recordings as much as I could, because man, there's a lot of really fantastic tools. And I am a little ashamed at the quality that I put out, because I am a much better editor today. And you can be too. It doesn't take you 10 years to become a decent editor, or even a good one. So let's go back to the presentation. Tip number 9, using 2 monitors. I cannot tell you how much time having a screen on your right and a screen on your left can save you. It's amazing. And there was a time when I had 3 monitors. Oh, it was glorious. So glorious, because I'd have my editing tool, my DAW, Audacity, or Descript, or whatever I use, Riverside. I'd have that on the screen to my right, and I'd be editing there. And then on the screen to my left is where I'd have a text document open with the instructions that my client gave me, or folders where all of the sound effects or the things that I needed to pull and drag into the project would be there. If you're on a laptop, and I did this for many years, you edit on a laptop screen, you're switching windows and all this stuff, and it's not as efficient as having 2 monitors. And if you've got 3, oh man, I mean, it's just amazing. All right, let's go back to the chat real quick before I get to number 10. It's not like there's a big drum roll needed for number 10, but we'll just keep you guys involved here. Let's see. Shrikant, I think it is. There is a paid VST plugin called Supertone Clear that also does a decent job if you prefer to use an audio cleaner in your DAW or an LE. Yes. I've also heard of Clarity RX, I think is another one that's really popular. I haven't used that yet, but there's a lot of tools out there. Some will work with whatever tool you're using, some won't. Like, you can't put plugins into Descript and Riverside. These are online browser-based type tools that you can't add to. That's just a product you're going to get. They're fantastic values and have fantastic features in them, so I'm not going to complain. But you can't add those extra things to it. But in tools like Adobe, and you've got Reaper and Hindenburg and Audacity even, you can put these plugins into, and Pro Tools, if you guys are familiar with Pro Tools. Let's see. I think that's all I have right now for questions. If I did not answer a question yet, there are a couple questions. I'm sorry. There's a Q&A. Oh, there's a whole window here. Can we crowdsource some tools for AI tools that help with edits? Shrikant, is offering, he says, my offerings, Resound, FM, Auphonic, Adobe Podcast. Yep. Transcript.lol. No, IOL. No, IOI? Again, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read that, but that's fantastic. Those are some good suggestions in there. What is your opinion on helper programs like AutoCut and Recut and PodMake? I haven't used those. I haven't. Should I be? Maybe. I probably should try them out. One thing I can tell you right now is this old dog doesn't learn new tricks very well, but I am trying. I mean, I do know how to use Descript. I know how to use Riverside to edit video, Descript to edit video as well. And these tools are fantastic. So I haven't used those ones yet, although I've used other things like Opus Clips for making video shorts, and there was another one too. I cannot remember the name, and I feel bad that I don't. But these are tools that can help in certain ways to help your post-production process, especially, again, with the video shorts and stuff like that. I love to have AI just pick out some of the best clips, and then I'll tweak those and make them better. And then if I know that there's something better, I can go and find them. Usually the tools allow us to do that as well. All right, let's go back into the presentation, and we'll take more Q&A after that. Tip number 10, gaming mouse. I'll tell you what, gaming mice and the mice that have a 10 key or 12 key on the side, there is another shortcut that kind of takes us back to number 1, because you can have programmable buttons on your left hand as well. So you will have on your right hand. Most of these mice are right-handed. On your left hand, you got your hand on your keyboard, right? And you want to keep your eyes on the screen. You don't want to take them off the screen because then you kind of lose your place, and it takes a fraction of a second, maybe even half a second, to find your place back. And if you're making 1,000 edits in a episode, that's a lot of wasted time. But if you've got the number keys that you can program on your mouse, well, there you go. You just got 10 to 12 more shortcuts that you can program. For example, I don't know why, but the number 4 on my mouse is my cut tool, meaning it puts a cut here in the project, and then I can shift things around. It's fantastic. And the number 9 is a repeat key, and that does the exact same effect that I applied. It just redoes it. So if I've been using the same command frequently, okay, boom, boom, boom. Like we'll say deplosive or something like that. Maybe I don't use deplosive much, but there's a time where they're talking about peanut butter and popcorn. You know, I can just hit that number 9 and it repeats the same thing. That's number 10. All right. Bonus tip number 11, keep learning. I run the Podcast Editor Academy, and there's all kinds of resources. So if you're looking at creating a business, growing a business as a post-production specialist, and not just for editing, but all kinds of different things, you might want to consider to join that. But really what we were here about was to learn about these shortcuts. I am going to go to the Q&A unless, we got a couple of questions here. Do we have questions, more questions? Nope, same questions. But let me put my glasses on and go back to the chat. If I did miss something that you put in the chat that I need to address from a while ago, please bring them up. And maybe Nancy knows with them. All right. Sarah says, what do you do to get comments from colleagues in an audio cut? Oh, so this is collaboration, like getting feedback and hearing from others about what you're talking about or what you did. I use Descript comments, but we used to do markers and Audition wave files. Descript is okay, sometimes flaky, copying over comments and highlighted in duplicate drafts. There's 1,000 different ways you can go about this. Descript's got something built in there. I believe Riverside does as well. If you're talking about DAWs and stuff like that, I know that there's a labeling tool in Audacity, but I don't necessarily think that you would want to share Audacity file. You know, these are project files through like Dropbox or Google Drive. I haven't had any problems with them lately, but there were times in the past where maybe just synced didn't work for somebody. I've really never had a problem with it, but I've heard other people that did. But there are tools out there like NoteTracks. NoteTracks.com is a tool where you can upload your project and put notes in there, and it's kind of browser based, and people can then comment, and that's for audio or video as well. So you might try something like that. Another way to go about it would be if you got a transcript. And I'll give you a tip here. Okay, so I've got 5 contractors. Most of them have been with me more than 7 years. They do great work. But we're doing something different for my new clients who want what I call a video light product. We're going to edit the audio superbly, like we always have. but they're going to get a video product that's better than just puking up Zoom calls up on the internet. So what we want to do is take out what I call the big rocks. Somebody's doing the interview, doorbell rings, the Amazon driver pulls up, and the dog starts barking. Okay, there's a whole big section that's got to come out. What I don't want to do is have to spend 8 hours editing video. It takes longer to edit video than audio. So I'm going to have my contractor go through, they're going to edit the audio, and they're going to make note of the big rocks. And what they'll do is they'll go to the transcript that I share through Google Doc, and they'll highlight the section that they're taking out. And that saves them time having to communicate like, oh, Steve, at the 36-minute mark. And of course, if you take stuff out, the timestamps all change in the audio. So that could be another way you do it as well. So Note Tracks is on like an online thing, a Google Doc, sharing a transcript, things like that. I know there's one guy, his name is Dallas Maverick, I believe it is. He's still getting handwritten notes about what to do in these certain sections. And it's like, man, that seems like a lot of work, but it works for them. So I definitely don't want to take that away from them. If it works, keep doing it. This looks even better than the Logic Mixmaster series. What brand model is that? Oh, we're talking about the mouse. The mouse. Okay, so I've got a 12 key here. There's a couple of them. I can't remember what that one was. Razor's one of them, I think it is. I know what it is. I have it in a blog post. I just don't know if I can share it right now. Let me go to another question. If you want to know what that mouse is, go to stevestewart.me and just type in the search box gaming mouse. stevestewart.me is my website. I'm sorry, go to stevestewart.me/blog, and then type in the search for gaming mouse, and it'll give you a couple options right there. All right. Tony says, I'm maybe the only one who still likes a big trackball. Trackballs are great mice. I've not actually mastered it or been able to use it very efficiently, but I know people who do. It's got that little ball. Instead of the ball being on the bottom and you move your mouse around, the ball's on the top and it moves your mouse on the screen, and then you got the keys and stuff. Hey, there's left-handed people in the world who do fantastic things that a right-handed person would be an expert at. So, why not? There's different tools for everybody. How do you keep revision files organized to avoid files that say final.mp3? Going back to that tip earlier about organization, that's where you have, so it might just be as simple as V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. And there's that joke where you've got final, and you've got final, and you've got final, this is it, final, and you got final, effing final, and then, I think coffee mugs are really popular with that type of a thing. But yeah, the version number, and I usually keep it at the end of the file name. That's where I'm going to see the majority of the versions. And plus, in the Windows Explorer window or the Finder window, sometimes a file name gets really long, it's going to truncate it, but you always see the last few characters. That'll help you keep it organized. Plus, if you've got them sorted in a certain way in the same folder, that'll help as well. Let's see. Dropbox now lets you comment on multimedia upload into a folder. Surprised me when it popped up as an option. Dropbox now lets you comment on multimedia upload in a folder. Okay, that's cool. I don't think I've tried that before, but I've seen where you open up a project. Yeah, there's places to comment on the right, but maybe there's something different and new. That'd be cool. Michael says, my current workflow is to mix the show, mix down to a single file, then take that file and master it. Is this how you do it, or do you find you can get the mix down file to the proper level without the mastering step? Okay, for people who are not familiar with mixing and mastering, and I don't even bother with trying to explain it. It's more complicated than it needs to be. We're talking about spoken word. We're talking about, and I don't want to insult anybody who's doing audio engineering. You've got a skill set that I don't. Mixing is kind of putting everything together, and this is a really bad explanation. Maybe you could put it in the chat. That would be even better. But mastering is where you're putting the levels out there properly, and you're kind of rendering it out. What I do My process is pretty simple. I'm going to do most of the, I don't want to say mastering. I'm going to do all the volume control, noise reduction. I'm getting the audio quality to where I want it first before I do any kind of editing, because I want to get rid of the reverb. I want to get rid of all those things before I start making edits and then try to apply it later. Especially the leveling, because if I'm leveling audio after the fact, then things I wanted to be quieter, like breaths, could be amplified. We don't want that. So I'm going to get the audio where I want it to be as best as I can before I start editing. Then I'll take the pieces. So I might get, an interview, I might get an intro and an outro recording from my client. I'm going to edit those separately. Then I'll export those out, save them in a folder. They're labeled in a way where it's pretty easy for me to identify this is for this episode, this is the intro, this is the outro, this is the interview. And then I'm going to put them all back into a new project, organize everything, put the music in there, sound effects if I need them, stuff like that. That way, if I ever have to go back and change anything, and I've done this before where I've got clients who want replays of episodes from 2-3 years ago, I can bring back that session file. I can take out the intro, I can take out the outro, and I can put in their new intro outro and still have the old interview with all the music and sound effects and all that stuff around it. That's the majority of the process that I follow. All right, final of the blog post. Oh, thank you. Shrikant put that in the chat for the mouse. A couple of the mouse, the gaming mice that sometimes it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I found it really quick because it's basically a mouse. It's got all the features to it, and it's got the number key on the left side, and then you can start programming your keyboard shortcuts to those numbers. If whatever tool you're using allows you to do that. I believe Hindenburg does not allow you to program your own keyboard shortcuts, but I think it does let you do macros, so that's cool. All right, are there any more questions? I'm going to mark the ones that I've answered. I don't know how to mark them. Oh, here we go. Wayne says can't find anybody else's Q&A. Okay, if there's anything else you guys want to add, please put it in the chat. And Nancy, if you want to come back, let me know where we want to go with the rest of this time that we have. Or did my sound go away? Oh, there you are. Thank you.
No, you're totally here. Sorry, Wayne. I don't know why you can't see others. You have the same access currently, but if nobody has any other questions. Oh,
here we go.
Looks like
Tara says you mentioned a lot of software. Do you have a list of them? Oh no. Oh well, no. There is a resources page at stevestewart.me, stevestewart.me/resources. Probably some of my favorite tools are there. But I'm sorry I listed a lot, but that's because there are a lot of tools out there. And I'm not trying to sell anybody on any specific tool. Like today, would I tell you to start learning Audacity? Not if you're doing video. If you're doing video, there's no reason to use Audacity because you can't do video with Audacity. You can pull the audio from a video into Audacity and edit the audio, but you can't do video. So that's where you might want to start with a Riverside or Descript. Adobe Podcast is really developing some fantastic stuff nowadays, and they all have their own. They have their days where they have they got up on the wrong side of the bed and they just don't work right. But for the most part, they're fantastic tools. So I don't really have a list of everything I might have mentioned. If you've got something specific, please let me know what that was.
Chat keeps going for you too.
I'm sorry?
The chat is lively for you still.
Yeah, good. Okay. I was reading and it just jumped up there. Hold on, I gotta get my glasses on again. Excuse me for the glasses, folks. This is what happens when Michael Houghton, hopefully I pronounced that right. I mixed to around -19 LUFS. My mastering step is to put final touches on controlling rogue peaks and getting the final levels to -16 LUFS. Yes. There are recommended LUFS, which is not volume, though if I wanted to make it simple, I'd say it's based on volume. It's what we perceive as loud or quiet. Like S's can be really loud and annoying, but they're not actually loud. And there's different sounds that can sound loud, but they're not actually loud. So LUFS is that perceived volume to a human ear, but isn't actually a volume level. Like you couldn't measure it that way. So when you talk about LUFS, and I don't even remember what the acronym is. I don't care. I don't want to get into that discussion. But yeah, there's a couple of recommendations in the industry. Negative 16 LUFS is good for stereo, negative 19 for mono. I think I got those right. And there's tools out there that can help you to measure to see if you're getting that much. Let's see. Thanks. Tara said it was okay. We're talking about, yeah, there's a Mac app called Hush. It's not the best tool for creating better audio out of really bad audio, but it is something. It's a one-time purchase. Install it on your computer, and you do have a level as far as how severe you want it to correct. Like, I don't run any of the, we'll say, the audio clarity tools at 100%, because then you start losing the S's and you start losing consonants. It starts taking them out. So when I'm running Hush or Descript Studio Sound, any of those tools, I'm running them at 75 to 80%. That's my safe zone. And then I might tweak it up for more severe or let down. It depends on the product. Or even in Riverside. Riverside has Magic Audio, I think it's called. It's the same thing. You can dial it up or dial it down. I always start at about 75 to 80%. But yeah, Hush is a Mac app, and it's fantastic. It's worth every penny. Rob Byers, quote unquote, got up on the wrong side of the bed like Riverside today. Yep. Tony says, I can highly recommend the Ulean LUFS meter. Not expensive, solid features. Yeah, that's a great tool for measuring the LUFS. Again, it's not volume. We'll say it's basically volume. Oh, and Shrikant says, yes, LUFS is loudness unit for scale. I don't want to get into that. All right, Charlie asks, can you repeat the audio cleanup tools you use? Was it iZotope? Yeah, like locally, the tool I use is iZotope. iZotope RX. They've got a bunch of different tools. A lot of people like to use is it Neurons? But RX is the one I've just fallen in love with from the beginning. Well, not the beginning, but 2017 when I finally learned about it. This mouth declick tool is just amazing because we have saliva in our mouths. Our clients have saliva in their mouths. The guests have saliva in their mouths, and sometimes there's these little sounds that come out. And when you got headphones on and you're hearing all that stuff, over time you could get annoyed. And some of us have those AMSR type of avoidance features in our brains saying, that we want to get rid of these mouth clicks. And that tool is just, it does it. It's also got breath control, DS, deplosives. It's got this wonderful little tool called voice denoise, and it can take some of the harshness away from people who have those more of a raspy voice, I guess I'd say. And you can dial up the severity or dial it down. Fantastic tool. iZotope RX is the main one I would use. That's kind of like a local based on my computer type thing that isn't AI based. All right, what am I missing here? Tony, Kevin's telling Tony that they like Insight 2. It's included in most of the iZotope bundles. All right. Adobe Audition has 2 meters built in that can display LUFS. Yeah. The really good DAWs have LUFS meters built into them. Riverside recently added a phonic as a audio subprocessor. Oh, I did just read about that. Yeah, thank you, Shrikant. Riverside recently added a phonic as an audio subprocessor. If you don't know what a phonic is it's also kind of a web-based tool that will have a lot of audio cleanup. And there are people who they've got Descript and they've got all these tools and they still run it through Auphonic because they say it just has that final sweetener that it gives to the audio. So if they think it's fantastic and they're professionals like me, I believe them. So that's Riverside. Great. Okay. I think I've gotten all of those. And, there's more in the questions. Yeah, sorry, I was reading the chat and I wasn't getting to the Q&A. Yeah, can you repeat the audio cleanup tools you use? I think I already addressed that. So, audio cleanup tools. Well, here, let me go ahead and answer that. Let me see what I got on my computer. Audio cleanup tools. The AI-based ones are going to be like Descript Studio Sound. Adobe Podcast has their enhanced tool in there. I talked about Hush app. I feel like there's one more. Others that people recommend, Clarity RX, that's more like a plug-in. Somebody else had one in the chat. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was. Those, I mean, if I can't get it done in one of the 3 tools that I mainly use, and if I'm editing somebody's video in Riverside, that magic, whatever the magic audio is, I'm just using that. It's fantastic. It really is fantastic, and it's their recording, it's their tool, meaning my client. Then I'm using it if it's in their project, and that does come out pretty good. But it's those plus Mac app, Hush, and then Isotope RX, and then, of course, stuff that's built into Audacity. I can pull those up at any time as well. And there's some really cool effects that I use in Audacity, like a sound effect. I created a hotkey, so it's a one keyboard. Hit one key. Well, it's a macro with a hotkey assigned to it. So that's a double tip right there for you. I created a macro that makes the audio flip, and I can hit one key. It's that backwards slash. If I hit that, whatever I've selected reverses, which is great for like those whoosh sound effects. If I've got somebody who wants the whooshes in their show, I don't want them all to sound the same because it gets to be monotonous and boring. So I'll just hit that key and it'll go whoosh, and boom, there you go. So there's stuff built into that as well. Other people put in the chat what they use. Yeah, Wayne's mentioning that Adobe Podcasts gives you 1 hour free per day of use. You do have to have an account, but you don't have to pay for the account. You just sign up for one, and you can put stuff in there. Of course, it's limited to an hour and the file size as well. So there's limitations to that. But that'd be a great way for you to give it a try. Now, I will say the free version, unless they've changed it recently and I haven't seen it, will not allow you to dial it down. And of course, then I can't use it because it's got to be really bad audio for me to use it if it's 100%. But at that point, it's wow. You know, if you can't fix it with the AI software, then it's pretty much what I told you about that story before. All right. If you can work in tandem with an accommodating engineer to get best practices adhered to in the recording, that will save you much headache in the edit. Yes, meaning if you were to work with somebody, now I don't offer this tool, but let's just say I did, or this service. You get with me, we get your recording, we get on a Zoom call or something together, I tweak the audio, say, here are the settings, you can do it too. That would be worth your time. I know Chris Curran from Podcast Engineering School did that for a while. I don't know if he's doing it anymore. Tony, maybe you offer that. Put it in the chat if you do. But any type of training or help would be fantastic. And of course, we provide support and service in the Podcast Editor Academy. So you can always come in there and ask questions if you join. I strongly dissuade people from using the free version of the Adobe Podcast. It compresses and distorts the audio very badly. Amen. Michael says, even Auphonic will give you a limited amount of audio processing for free. So again, you can try these things out. A lot of these free trials are worth it if you want to see what it's like. But if it's limited to how much control you can put into it, as we were saying with Adobe Podcasts, then you might be a little concerned about, giving it a free trial. Because if you give a free trial a test and it doesn't turn out to be what you want, well, okay, you gave it a shot, but then you lost your time. You didn't find the solution, but the solution might be there. It's just it's in the paid version and we don't know it. And that's one problem with that Adobe Podcast, unless they've given you the opportunity to dial it in a little more or less when you try it out. Okay, so Tony does have his in the second comment there, how you can get a hold of him if you want to maybe talk to somebody who can teach you some of the audio engineering stuff, because there is a difference between an audio editor and an audio engineer. And an audio engineer has got some tools, not tools necessarily, but skills. We'll say skills that they know sound. They've been trained to know sound, and they're gonna make sound fantastic. Most of history with audio engineering has been based around music, but of course there's vocals. Singing vocals are a little bit different than spoken word, but it's still vocals. I think it's, and maybe Tony can correct me on this, but I do think it's easier to engineer spoken word audio than to try and create a musical harmonic creation and put it all together and stuff like that. That's audio engineering. Whereas audio editing is we're talking about cutting the crap. CRAPP. Crutches, repeats, accidents, pregnant pauses. The crutches. People use these, crutches like, in between their sentence structure, kind of like this. Accidents would be if I, let me say it again. Accidents would be if I, let me try it one more time. Accidents would be if I had to restate something or messed up or said something twice, something like that. Then you've got, oh, I forgot the repeats. I forgot the repeats. You know what I forgot? I forgot the repeats. You don't want to have that 3 times in an audio production. You want to cut out the crap, crutches, repeats, accidents, and then no, your Zoom didn't freeze. That's pregnant pauses that are a little bit too long. Pauses are good. Pauses are fantastic. Pace, space, let the listener breathe in, soak in what's been said. But you don't want those really long pauses where people are like, oh, did my phone crash on me? Especially if they're driving. You don't want to distract them from driving because you had a 3-second gap there when 1 second or even less than that would be enough. So pauses are great. Really long pauses. Those pregnant pauses, not so great. All right. I think that's it, Nancy. I think we'll have to wrap it up here soon anyway, right?
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. It was a great, engaging, good flow conversation. And Steve, obviously, there's never enough time to kind of grasp all your knowledge, but thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you, everybody, for being here for this webinar. And we hope to see you lots of webinars on the roster coming up. So make sure to check out our website. And if you are a member of TPA and haven't set up your GlueUp account, which is our new platform, please make sure to do that so that way you can register easily for our events. Well, Steve, thank you so much. And I
Thank you.
hope you enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.